Russian roulette is a classic game of deadly chance. Just you, your opponent, and a 6-shot revolver. Now imagine that instead of your opponent, there's a horrifying entity called the dealer. And instead of a revolver, there's a 12-gauge shotgun on the table. This is Buckshot Roulette. With its charming style and interestingly simple rules, this game has recently blown up on the internet. At its core, it's Russian roulette, but in a 1v1 style with a few more rules. There are also a bunch of items introduced in the later rounds, but for the sake of this video, I'm only going to talk about the rounds without items. Most items are pretty self-explanatory on how to use them, but if you want me to make a video on that later, be sure to let me know. Now, when I played the game for the first time, I immediately wondered what the best strategy was to win. Sure, it's a game of chance, but it's a game of chance with player input. And that means there's strategy. Most people simply play by the odds. For example, if there's 3 live rounds and 2 blanks, you shoot the dealer. If there's 2 live rounds and 3 blanks, you shoot yourself. And if it's even, people tend to shoot the dealer more often. But then you also need to think about how the dealer plays. At first, I assumed he'd play by the odds as well. But in reality, the dealer's kinda stupid. I mean, he already knows the order he put the shells in the shotgun and could easily capitalize on that. But instead, he opts to simply flip a coin unless it's the last round. So if there's 3 live rounds and 1 blank left, he flips a coin. If there's 5 live rounds and 1 blank left, he flips a coin. Heck, if there's 5 live rounds and no blanks left, he flips a coin.
This guy is bold. He's bold. He's not smart, but he's certainly bold.
So, taking all of this into account, what's the best way to win? Initially, to figure this out, I tried doing some casework. I would explain that, but I know that even the 10 seconds it would take me to explain it would make me lose some of that delicious retention. So instead, I'm going to explain it with the example of gambling. So let's talk about Plinko games. If you don't know, Plinko games are those games where you drop the little marble or whatever down the top of these pegs, and watch as it gets flung around by the sticks until it hits one of the boxes at the bottom, and you get your points. Now let's say you wanted to analyze the chances of getting a certain box in a Plinko game. Well, you could start by looking at the bottom. If the ball's here, there's a 50-50 shot it'll get into this 3.2 point box. But if it's here, there's also a 50-50 shot. But if it's anywhere else on the bottom row, there's no chance it'll get to the 3.2 box. No matter how much you beg the casino owner to rig it so you can win back the thousands you've lost playing Plinko. It's addicting. Don't gamble, kids. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to drop the marble in the last row, so let's go up a row. If it lands here, it'll either go left or right. If it goes left, we already said there's a 50-50 shot that it'll go in. If it goes right, there's also a 50-50 shot it'll go in. So your odds end up being 50-50 if it lands here. Now, let's say it goes one to the right. Now it'll either go here or here. Now, on the left, we've already said that it's a 50-50, but on the right, there's a 0% chance it'll go in. So some basic math tells us that if it lands here, there's a 25% chance it'll go in. And that's how casework works. You analyze the chances of a specific condition resulting in a specific outcome by simply building up. And that's exactly what I did to try to analyze the average points you score against the dealer based on each choice in each scenario. After doing this, however, the results were rather surprising. So I decided I had to do some good old science and test my theory. Now, as much as I love the game, I wasn't willing to try multiple strategies hundreds of times each to analyze the chances. And even if I did, that wouldn't even let me test against different dealer algorithms. So instead, I coded a little Java program to let me see how different algorithm pairings fare against each other. The natural advantage of this is that I can run tens of thousands of simulations for a single matchup, so I can get a really accurate estimate of how each strategy fares. For clarification, I simulated 10,000 rounds of the same matchup, each with 4 live rounds and 4 blanks shuffled to random locations for each strategy matchup. So without further ado, let's get to the results. Obviously, the dealer's AI was consistently the worst algorithm. Not only did it lose to basically every algorithm I tested it against, but in some cases it only averaged a mere 1.2 damage per round compared to the player's 2.8. The probability algorithm, the one where you choose whichever option is the best odds, was interesting. It wasn't the best algorithm I tested, but the most interesting part was that the player usually won against the dealer even if they both played the odds. On average, the player scored 2.4 points to the dealer's 1.6. My only guess is that this has to do with the player going first, which might be an inherent advantage in such an equal matchup. Additionally, I told the algorithm to by default just shoot the opposite player when there was a tie between blanks and odds, and since the player went first, that one round of shooting the dealer first might be increasing its average points. But if analyzing the odds and going off the best isn't the best strategy, then what is? The best algorithm was ironically the simplest, to always shoot the opposing player. This is the same conclusion I drew from Casework, that's why I was unsure if I did it right or not. Now at first glance, this doesn't make any sense at all. If there's 4 blank rounds and 1 live, why on earth would you shoot the dealer? But when you really think about it, shooting the dealer is still the correct play here. By shooting yourself, sure, chances are that you miss, but if you do hit, then you just took some damage on your own turn. Whereas if you shoot the dealer, again, chances are low that you hit them, but when you do, that payoff is huge. And either way, if you both miss until it's down to 1 live, 1 blank, then you're at a 50-50 anyway. So you might as well be shooting the dealer for those small chances you hit while on your way to that 1 live, 1 blank case where it's a 50-50 shot anyway. In every single case that I tested, it's always better to shoot the dealer. That's just how the math works out, and that's what resulted in the 2.8 to 1.2 average points favoring the player against the dealer's default AI. Interestingly enough, when both the player and dealer play by this strategy, their average scores were practically equal. I'm not sure if this is too low to consider significant, but on average, the player scored about 2.005 points per round to the dealer's 1.995. And I got a similar thing in my casework, but again, I figured that was just due to rounding. And maybe it is, even when testing 10,000 cases, there's still going to be some error. So make of that what you will. So there you have it. That's how to win Buckshot Roulette in the rounds without items. Now, if you're ever in need of a quick buck, you yourself can just grab a shotgun and challenge your friend to a quick, fun game of Buckshot Roulette, knowing that you know the best strategy. For legal reasons, that's a joke. Don't gamble with your life, kids. Only with your savings. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.